What's up? It's your girl, Mickey Truth. You tune in to Miss Me With That BS, the realest spot on YouTube for calling out the nonsense. Make sure you tell a friend to pull up and hit that subscribe button and join the fam. Let's get into it.
Peace, peace, peace. What's up? This is Miss Me With That BS. So, in October of 1989, Boston was shaken by a crime that seemed straight out of a nightmare. It began as a story of a young couple, Charles and Carol Stuart. Driving home after a birthing class, Carol, 7 months pregnant, was excited about the new life she was bringing into the world. But that night turned into one of the most infamous murder cases in Boston history. As Charles and Carol Stuart drove through the Mission Hill neighborhood, Charles Stuart made a frantic 911 call. He claimed that a black man had jumped into their car, robbed them, shot Carol in the head, and shot him in the stomach before fleeing into the night. Carol was rushed to the hospital where she tragically died hours later. Doctors delivered her baby boy, Christopher, prematurely, but the infant only survived 17 days. The case immediately drew massive media attention. Boston was gripped by fear and racial tensions exploded. Police launched one of the largest manhunts in the city's history, rounding up dozens of young black men for questioning. One of the first to be targeted was Alan Swanson, a homeless black man who struggled with mental illness. He was arrested, interrogated, and splashed across headlines as the possible killer. But he had nothing to do with the crime. Soon after, another man, Willie Bennett, became the prime suspect. For weeks, Bennett was vilified in the media and treated as if he were guilty, all while Charles Stuart was being hailed as a grieving husband and victim. Behind the scenes, however, investigators began noticing cracks in Charles' story. His wounds were far less severe than Carol's. No physical evidence supported his claim of a carjacking. And then Charles' own brother, Matthew Stuart, came forward with shocking revelations. Charles had planned the murder himself. Charles Stuart was drowning in debt and terrified of the responsibilities of fatherhood. He staged the attack, shot Carol, shot himself to make it look believable, and blamed it on an imaginary black man. When the truth began to unravel, Stuart drove to Boston's Tobin Bridge. On January 4th, 1990, he leapt into the Mystic River, ending his life and confirming the lies that had destroyed so many others. The murder of Carol Stuart left scars far deeper than one family's tragedy. It devastated Carol's loved ones, destroyed the lives of men like Alan Swanson and Willie Bennett, and fueled racial mistrust that still lingers in Boston. The Carol Stuart case became a cautionary tale of how quickly fear, lies, and prejudice can twist justice, and how innocent people can suffer when truth is ignored. Now, I just want to go back to Mr. Swanson and Mr. Bennett in the role that they played, or should I say, did not play. So in the frantic days after the shooting, Boston police and the media was desperate to find someone to blame, as I said before. Instead of evidence, they relied on Charles Stuart's word, and his lie pointed straight at black men in Boston. The first victim of this false accusation was Alan Swanson, a homeless man struggling with mental illness. Sampson was arrested and interrogated, treated like a dangerous criminal, even though there was no proof he had anything to do with the attack. His name was dragged through the headlines, and the public looked at him as though he were guilty, all while he was completely innocent. But Alan Swanson wasn't the only one. Soon after, police turned their attention to Willie Bennett, a 39-year-old black man from Mission Hill. He was paraded as the prime suspect. His mugshot splashed across newspapers and TV screens. Boston police and reporters painted him as a violent predator, and the public believed it. But like Swanson, Willie Bennett had nothing to do with the murder. He was being framed by Charles Stuart's lie. The damage to his reputation and his family was irreversible. His life was scarred by the false accusation. The truth eventually came out. Charles Stuart had killed his own wife, but by then the lives of Alan Swanson and Willie Bennett had already been shattered. They became symbols of a justice system too willing to believe the worst about black men and too eager to take the word of a white man who appeared to be a victim. The wrongful targeting of Swanson and Bennett remains one of the most painful chapters in the Carol Stuart case, as a reminder of how lies and prejudice can destroy innocent lives. So the victims here are Carol Stuart, rest in peace, her son Christopher, rest in peace, Alan Swanson, and Willie Bennett. In 1990, Boston agreed to pay Alan Swanson and Willie Bennett $150,000 each as compensation. It wasn't enough to repair their reputations or erase the suffering they went through, but it was the city's way of acknowledging that they had been wrongfully targeted and publicly destroyed by lies. The payout became a symbol not of full justice, but of a city trying to take responsibility for mistakes that should never have happened in the first place. For Swanson and Bennett, no amount of money could undo the years of stigma, the pain their families endured, or the deep mistrust this case cemented between Boston's black community and law enforcement. The $150,000 settlements were more of an apology than true justice. To this day, their names remain tied to the Carol Stuart case, not because of what they did, but because of what was done to them. Innocent men whose lives were forever altered by one man's lies in a system too ready to believe them. So let me ask you, do you feel $150,000 is enough for what they went through? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, definitely share. Peace.
You didn't have to play me like that, but I took you back because of love.